Howdy folks, and welcome back to the lab. We have finally come to the long-awaited event, Your Dudes 3. The coming of this event was foretold for many years. Basically, I said for a long time, whenever we get to 20k subscribers, which we did a short while ago, that we would do Your Dudes 3. And here we are. If you weren't around for the previous Your Dude events, this is the event where I kitbash and paint you guys' custom factions. The video that I posted before my Bad Ab War video was the opening of my gladiatorial blood pits, as I like to call them. A comment section where hopeful participants posted their homebrew faction in hopes of garnering enough votes from the crowd to qualify for the final top 5 for me to kitbash and paint. Although, you'll see that we actually ended up at 7, or 8 if you want to be pedantic. This video took a little longer than I had hoped to get out. After working 6 months straight on that 4-hour Bad Ab War video, it was about a week after I had posted my Bad Ab War video where I actually took a proper break after basically burning myself out for 6 months straight. During that week, I had actually been waiting for bits to come in for these models and some other projects that I had in mind. But you know how like whenever you order something, it's like estimated delivery date between A and B. It's like a time range. Everything that I ordered took as long as possible to show up. I know we're getting close to the holidays and whatnot, but like I was basically forced to sit around with nothing productive to do. So against my will, I may have gone into a week-long bender of playing more MechWarrior. I truly suffered in the interim, trust me. But so did my enemies. Turns out, if you put a Flea's engine into an urban mech, it's very fun. My girlfriend and everybody in the Discord usually tries to scold me for my workaholic nature. And having a week-long break felt like giving them a victory, and that really rubs me the wrong way. This video will follow the format established by the other Your Dudes videos, in particular Your Dudes 2, where I will present a winning faction, kitbash them, and paint them according to my own interpretations. And after the entire presentation, we'll also be having like a more relaxed Q&A session, where I'll show off some of the other factions from the comments section that I liked, because I didn't actually participate in the official voting. And I'll also answer some of you guys' questions. I was unsure whether or not to do that kind of segment at the end of Your Dudes again, but I put it out to a public vote, and you guys seem to want a mini podcast episode. So I'll put some game footage on the screen, and we'll just hang out for a bit. But before we do any of that shit, we gotta make your dudes. So let's make Your Dudes 3. I guess there's a lady as well this time, so we'll make a dudette too. I'm all for inclusivity, but I don't know, your people just isn't as catchy. It's kind of like X-Men. You don't call them the X-People. It's not as, it ain't got that sauce, you know? I don't know where I was going with that. First things first is a changing of the guard. My little green cutting mat has seen much better days, with one corner severely bent by the heat of a forgotten ramen bowl, but my girlfriend has graciously provided us a new cutting mat. While I personally think the green cutting mat is pretty iconic for modeling in general, I much prefer a black cutting mat. I've just never bitten the bullet and bought one. So this was a very nice surprise. Although my camera sometimes autofocuses on these random background numbers, so I might have to do something about that. We're testing this new cutting mat out. The first model up is the highest voted winner on the list, the Panther Guard, by what I believe is Jackson God's Chalk 93rd or 90 numbers. As mentioned, this was the highest voted faction, coming in first place with 32 votes. They are Raven Guard successors on a desert world. This entry is very short, which amused me considering how much some people posted. And its briefness basically says that they wear salmon and camo green, and they are inspired by the Pink Desert Zaku 2 model kit. This was an association I simply could not shake out of my head, so we are just going to Zakuify this Infernus Marine. I trimmed off the gorget and the knee flanges for no real reason other than I felt like it, but in retrospect this does match a little more closely to the Zaku style. However, the Zaku 2's defining feature are the pipes. And I say defining feature because it sets it apart from the Zaku 1 for nerd lore reasons. Basically, I recreated these pipes using Zinj Industry coiled wire. I've talked about this product before. It's basically guitar string if it wasn't sent from hell and actually malleable. You could also use green stuff tubes, but whatever. I made do with it. I used styrene rods as well to create plug mount things as well, meaning each pipe was drilled into the model with a little bit of styrene to show the plug and then the actual wire. For the weapon, I chose this bolt carbine from the Phobos model kits. If you trim the front handle off, these carbines actually end up looking pretty similar to the iconic bolter pattern that we all know and love. The mismatched size of the Phobos shoulder pads also set us up for the Zaku-esque pauldron that we'll be making. The Zaku 2 shoulder pad has 3 large spikes, but I really suck at making good spikes. But I had an idea. I took these plastic rods and inserted them into my drill. With some files and sandpaper, I can use the drill as a ghetto lathe to shape the end of these rods into spikes. With this stiff sanding board and some metal files, this actually worked really well, giving me 3 plastic spikes that I could attach to a Phobos shoulder pad with plastic cement. To top off the Zaku imagery, I grabbed this shield from the new Horus Heresy upgrade kits to mount onto the smaller shoulder of the Phobos arms. Now, Zaku 2s have rectangular shields, but I wanted to have some 40k-ish design language to it, and the rectangle was not exactly conducive to that. I did also consider a Indomitus Storm Shield, like the kind of cross-looking one, and the Assault Marine's old combat shield, but remember that my girlfriend stole it for her Blood Angels kill team. Whatever. I attached this helmet with a big-ass scope on it, which I'm hoping can sort of fake a mono-eye appearance at a glance, and I thought it turned out pretty well, so I moved on to painting, which did not go well. Spoilers. For painting, I initially layered on pink over a black primer, before realizing this was a stupid idea and I'd probably need like 3 coats to do so. I got off my lazy ass, went up to the store and bought some proper white primer, and reapplied that pink. I had moved all the way up to highlighting when I remembered that I was supposed to paint something more salmon-y, so I reprimed the Mini once again with the ideal goal of not fucking it up again. I started with pink and I mixed some brown into it for a muddy, fleshy kind of base coat pink. I brightened that up with white for a highlight layer, then a desaturated pink for another highlight on top, which ended up with something more appropriately base coat salmon-y, but also still kind of pinky like the Zaku, or at least that's kind of what I hope it ended up like. I base coated all of the black and black and metallic areas with black before moving to work onto the green areas. These got a dark army green base coat and a sponge of a lighter army green on top. I painted the metallic areas with a gunmetal silver using the desert pink Zaku as a visual guide on where to generally place and block in these colors. I proceeded to place highlights of neutral gray on top of the black areas and painted the pauldron trim yellow. This would allow me to paint the red stripe that is shown on the Desert Zaku with a thin edge highlight. The original stripe has 3 stripes in it, but that's kind of more precision than I feel like doing right now. Plus, I feel like 2 stripes makes it a little easier to see from a distance. I will also say that I started watching Kamen Rider Black recently, and this red-yellow banding also being on that suit design is making me really enjoy it here as well. I proceeded to wash the Mini with marine juice, of which I've done a million times before, so I won't get into it. I do it at this step mainly to keep it from washing out the highlights that I'm about to place on the pink armor. And speaking of, a pinky white was used to highlight the armor panels before quickly painting a sandy desert base using bone and flat white. I know this is the first model of the batch, but I think it's probably my favorite, if not for the fact that it is simply based on the Zaku. I really like Zakus. I think I generally nailed a faithful recreation of the Desert Zaku while also still making it look kind of like a Marine. Like, I'm still using 40k bits, but they're arranged and painted as Ifuzaku, which I feel is like a good hybrid between the two. The only thing I'm not super crazy about are the tubes or cables coming from the backpack and meeting up at the belt that you see on the normal Zaku. Doing it here was kind of a waste of time. It didn't really add much to it. If I were to redo this model or do this across a wider batch of models, I'd probably find a way to rework that or just not incorporate it. So, as the official winner of Your Dudes 3, thank you, Mr. Jackson, for your contribution of the Panther Guard. Let me answer your questions here real quick. How am I enjoying Trench Crusade? I don't necessarily play a lot of the games I make models for. Some of it's out of choice. I don't really have anybody, like, I could play on Tabletop Simulator, but the thing I like most is the models, and Tabletop Simulator kind of doesn't do that because they're just pre-rendered, like the 3D models. I like make my own models. So I haven't really been playing Trench Crusade, but I do like how it has been evolving. I've been kind of keeping an eye on the community and some of the new art that comes out, and there's some good things coming out. I'm still watching it. I still want to get back to making another warband, but these days I have more ideas than time, so don't worry, I'll be getting back to Trench Crusade. Second question is, any theories on what the 11th edition box set is going to look like? Well, it's definitely Marines. Whether we want it to not, it's going to be Marines. But as for the other faction, personally, I would like to see a Dark Eldar refresh of their non-plastic minis combined with some new minis. Like, hey, here's some revamped minis and, 1 or 2 new units, and that's the box set, Plus, it would be kind of evocative of the old Black Templars versus Dark Eldar starter set. They could milk some nostalgia money from that. I know we're not going to be adding a new faction, but if we were, Dark Admech, that'd be really cool to see. But it probably won't happen, so I'm gonna put my money on Dark Eldar. The second place winners of Your Dudes 3 were the Ashen Brethren by Animogix, whatever, with 31 votes. These guys are salamander successors that are made of remnants of the Abyssal Crusade that survived the whole debacle. They came together to form a chapter of stragglers, making their base of operations on a dangerous death world cloaked by an eclipse most of the year. Honestly, a pretty cool concept, and I have something of a special attachment to anything related to the Abyssal Crusade. I don't know, something about that event, like, it feels like one of my own children, or something. Does that make sense? For the Ashen Brethren, I decided to use this Salamander Flamer Marine from the Space Marine Heroes board game, as the chapter is noted to use a mix of older armor marks and adorn it with leftover bits from Grey Tide Studios' Anvil Wardens line. These were the just-in-case parts that I printed out for my Flesh Terrors project, and I figured the monstery bits would work out perfectly for this Salamander successor chapter that hunts monsters. Not to quickly gloss over this model and some of the other conversions in this video, but there wasn't really much to this one besides the bit selection. Like, after I picked what I wanted the model to look like, it was kind of just a matter of sticking the bits on and being done, Some bits like the cape and the power fist needed a little bit of green stuff for a really snug connection. The cape itself is notably kind of big for the model, as these were scaled for Primaris Marines, not necessarily Firstborn, but otherwise, yeah, it was pretty simple. Step 1, make the Marine. Also, I had planned on using this resting hammer hero pose, but ended up deciding that I liked this plasma pistol arm a little more. What can I say? Power fist and plasma pistol is simply the coolest Marine loadout. I don't make the rules, I'm sorry. I reattached the Mark IV helmet that came with the model, since Mark IV is objectively the best helmet, and primed the model in black. For Marines, it's usually easiest to start with the major color of the armor, and we'll be doing so here, base coating the armor with a dark forest green before building up to a nice poppy green. The Ashen Brethren are stated to have a mossy green armor, and I'm hoping the combination of forest green, bright green, and the brown wash we'll be giving it later kind of all evens out to something a little mossy. I put gunmetal on the pauldrons and both arms before running into a problem. The silver areas of this marine are described as silvery gray, but how do you do that? I'm probably overthinking silvery gray, but I just kind of wanted to try adding white to silver. Usually if you add white to a color, if you want to like increase its value, make it a little brighter, make a highlight color. So what if I did it with metallic? I sponged it on and I didn't really hate how it was coming along. It's like a sparkly white on top of a dark metal. Might be kind of hard to see on camera, but it's different. I like it. The Ashen Brethren sport bronze on their power packs, with sergeants also getting that bronze on their helmet as well, so I went ahead and base coated those areas. Honestly, with green and silver and bronze and black, it kind of had me worried that this would be like a clash of too many colors, maybe too many metallics, but it kind of grew on me as time went on. It's honestly nowhere near as bad as I expected it to be. I think the color distribution plays a lot into that, and having most of the colors on the darker end with the silver being on the brighter end, I think it all balances out pretty well actually. I shaded the mini with marine juice before moving on to highlights. The black areas got neutral gray, and I used a bright gold to highlight the bronze areas. I mixed bone into my bright green to get a highlight green, avoiding the use of white here so my green doesn't end up looking too cold. Tan or a bone works better to keep highlights on the warm side of things. I don't know why, I don't make the rules, I just kind of know that it works. And with that, the majority of the model was done, so I dotted some I's, literally, crossed some T's, and the Ashen Brethren were done. And here's the completed mini for the Ashen Brethren. I really like the concept of this chapter, basically being a ragtag group of survivors who choose to set up camp in what sounds like a very dangerous hellhole. But the idea of the planet being in a constant eclipse is kind of cool. I like that idea. I definitely took a while to warm up to the color scheme, but yeah, I do like how this mini ended up at the end of the day. Thank you for submitting the Ashen Brethren. Don't worry, this is not the last time we will hear from them in this video. Spoilers. But let me go ahead and get your AMA questions out of the way. Number 1, how many orc kit bashes have I done? 0, actually. I don't think I've even done an orc model as a side project for anything. Not even like a dead orc for a base. I've just never touched orc models. Number 2, would I ever do a kit bash for Dared Gabo? I kind of failed to think of what I could do, but like, sure, I'm not opposed to it. I just don't have any ideas. Number 3, favorite meals to get in state and out. I can't remember the last time I've been out of state that wasn't for like job training, but the company I work at now, their main office is over in Longview, and like not even 10 minutes down the road from their main office is a teriyaki place that's really good. And I guess number 4 plays into this. Have I ever traveled much? Not since my dad retired from the Navy. We moved around a lot. I was a Navy kid. I've basically moved around the globe, and my dad retired from the Navy in 2008. We came down to Louisiana, and I have been stuck in this swampy hellhole since. However, the urge to travel is not strong within me, so whenever people suggest moving out, I just think of how expensive that could be. Although I've gotten plenty of offers from my friend Nathan to move up to Oregon with him, and it doesn't sound like a bad idea. Oregon is generally colder. They definitely get a lot more rain, which I do like. It's a possibility. In third place with 30 votes, we have the Sons of the Labyrinth from 3-time Your Dudes winner, Fordo the Hussar. Now, a lot of people were not happy with Fordo making it to Your Dudes 2. And now that he's in 3 times, I understand that those people will probably be even madder. And I understand that, but I need you guys to know that I didn't vote for him. You guys did. Your dudes is what the crowd wants in the truest sense. A lot of the times I don't even look at the voting process until it's done. And if the crowd votes for Fordo, I mean, at that point, he's basically the people's champ. They want the people's champ, and he's here. If you don't want him here, your main option is not vote for him. You know, like, I'm just here to do the labor, okay? Some people may try to make a case like, oh, well, he's been in all the Your Dudes so far, so, you know, you can't have an unbiased opinion on voting him in. And that's a fair point. Does his reputation precede him now? Is his homebrew just that good? Who knows? But Fordo has achieved Lich's lab history nonetheless. The people want Fordo, so I'm going to give them Fordo. For his 3rd appearance, Fordo brings to us a Greek-themed chapter known for their reclusive nature and disgustingly fat wallets, shown in their gold-adorned war gear. The comparison to the Minotaurs are pretty obvious. I mean, Sons of the Labyrinth, it's right there in the name. But they're not the Minotaurs, so they're instantly not cringe. So, let's get to kitbashing. For this model, I'll be using another remnant of my Space Marine Heroes board game, as the Sons of the Labyrinth use older armor marks. We'll be using this model mostly as is, but we need to make a few adjustments, specifically with trimming off all of that chest detail. Fordo mentions using the old muscular chest piece from the Blood Angels upgrade kit for his sergeants, so I'm going to aim for the same vibe. However, I don't have that bit, guess who stole it from me, so I guess I'll have to make my own. After smoothing down the front of the torso, I mixed green stuff and milliput together. This mix is easy to manipulate and cures pretty rock hard, way less rubbery than green stuff does by itself, making it perfect for most sculpting jobs, honestly. I smushed the putty in and worked on getting the thickness correct, trimming away excess as I flatten it down. When the putty is as thick as I wanted it, I trimmed the perimeter off to get the final shape before the final refinements. The top of the putty at this stage is pretty irregular, but whenever the putty cures, I can sand everything flat to get my target shape, which are nice flat armor panels. With the breastplate done, I can add some more gubbins, being a Mark IV helmet, a power fist, and a leftover Anvil Warden's cape, although I'll be trimming off that dragon adornment right there on the corner to give me a fairly generic cape with some skulls. Attaching all of these leaves me with a Marine that I feel like has some pretty solid status looking at him. For the paint job, I started with a heavy overbrush of dark brown over my black primer. Then I dry brushed Balthazar gold, mainly because Fordo specified the paint and I happen to have it. Combined with the previous layer of dark brown, this produces a super nice bronzy, kind of goldy, whatever color. I don't know. I think it looks really good. With that down, we can add flat blue onto the knee pads, pauldrons, backpack exhausts, and specifically his helmet due to his rank as a sergeant. I really like the matte blue and the shiny bronze gold together. I've been really feeling dual finishes since painting the tiger claws in the Bad Ab War video, but as right now, it's looking a little flat. I made some dark blue and added it to the bottom of these areas as a glaze, cleaning my brush and feathering out the tops to help give it a little depth. I could have also masked these areas and then dry brushed it, but whatever. This didn't take very long to do. I painted the black areas and dry brushed them neutral gray before moving on to the gold areas, specifically with Liberator Gold, which Fordo specifies, and I once again happen to have. This pot of Liberator Gold is actually like one of my oldest surviving paints from when I first painted like my Dungeons and Dragons minis in like, the original paint job was yellow and then I repainted it gold in like 2015, honestly. Jesus Christ, that was 10 years ago. Jesus. I added Liberator Gold to the areas Fordo specifies in his posts, and some other areas like the rings of his capes, of which is another leftover Anvil Warden's bit but I think I specified that already, so I don't know why I wrote this twice. Whatever. Also, I gave his chainsword gold teeth because nothing says extreme wealth like a gold grill, like gold on the teeth. Do you get it? Now it was time to do the chapter symbol, which was a round circle. Now I can't draw a circle with a gun to my head, so I looked around at my decal stash. There I found a solid white circle, of which I could use as a base for my own freehanding. I applied a decal using some decal solution to ensure that it formed to the curved surface, although I did end up tearing it a little bit because I have gorilla hands. With a coat of thin white paint over the decal to fix my mistake, I took a flat blue to draw the inner design within the circle, which netted me with a pretty solid chapter symbol, if I do say so myself. Honestly, I need to remember to use my decals more often. I have basically a tiny book's worth of decals, and I always forget to use them. And it's like I can use them for practical things like this as well. Like I can paint on top of them, but I just kind of forget they exist a lot of the time. After painting the chapter heraldry, the mini got a wash of marine juice all over. Edge highlighted the blue areas with a bright sky blue, and the armor with the Balthazar gold mixed with a little bright silver. Since if you're trying to brighten a metallic paint, you basically just add bright silver to it. It's like the white of metallic colors, if that makes sense. I painted all the boring shit that nobody cares about, like the eyes, the base, and bada boom. Now this is nothing against the Sons of the Labyrinth. This is just me personally, but I'm a little worn out with anything in the Greco-Roman space. But I do like the Sons of the Labyrinth on the simple fact that they are blue. Like, I don't know, it fits a little... I am doing a direct comparison to the Minotaurs here, but I like the blue more, and I don't know why. In most situations, I would definitely say I like red over blue. I used to be a blue kid, but now I'm a red man. But blue definitely works here. I also really like the dry brush of Balthazar gold over brown. That's a really nice shade of like a dark, warm metal that I really like. You'll see that down the line. I do keep this formula in mind whenever I paint another mini, and I'm definitely gonna have to keep it in my back pocket moving forward because this shit is smooth. The glazing of the blue areas was also kind of last minute and really lazy, but I like how it ended up. Normally I'm not a glaze kind of guy. It just feels like it kind of takes too long sometimes, but I don't know. It wasn't that hard, and it turned out really nice. So yeah, I'll try to do more of that. So thank you again, Fordo, for the 3 video domination streak. While you did not score the highest in the voting pool, you are definitely the people's champion as of right now. And with how infrequent these videos are, you'll probably stay the champion for quite a while. So enjoy, man. Let me get a shot of all your guys all together so everyone can marvel at your marvelousness. And let me answer your questions too. Number 1, how's life going? Don't get me started, man. I'm so tired. My new job is going fine, but I'm definitely feeling like there are not enough hours in the day to do everything I'm trying to do. My girlfriend, bless her heart, is always warning me to rest and not burn out, but I feel like I want to do everything. I just don't have the time or energy to do everything. It's I don't know, this my job is full-time, and I have been thinking about staying at this job long enough to find another gig that's part-time, but I got like benefits here and stuff, so I'm not sure if that's what I want to do. But if this, like, I want to put more energy into the channel, and just for complete transparency, it's not at that monetary level yet. Ideally, I could work a part-time job and still do the channel on the side and not just break even, but profit a little bit, just so I could, like, you know, afford to move out with my girlfriend. But yeah, slow and steady. I can't argue. I'm not going to be ungrateful for what I have. I do appreciate everything I do have currently. So I don't want you guys to think that's like me complaining. That's just kind of how everything is laying out right now. Ideally, I would sleep even less. I'm down to about 6 hours now, and I'm trying to move to like 5 hours of sleep a night so I can just keep keep doing things. I'm perfectly fine with burning my physical health to accomplish more. That's fine by me. It's just hard because I get sleepy. And I don't want, I basically, I want to not have consequences for my actions. That'd be ideal, you know. Number 2, are there any Monster Hunter Eldars in the works after Badab? I've sort of talked about this before, but it's kind of hard for me to find time or justify time on side projects these days, especially now since I'm working full time. The Monster Hunter Eldars are definitely a project where I need to sit down and do like extensive sculpting work. And with my goal being to grow the channel, it's sometimes hard to justify a large time investment to a video that may not do super well. Like, I just burned 6 months of my life on the Badab War, and the views spiked until about 25k as of now, and it's flatlined, you know? Like, that was like 6 constant months of coming home and then immediately doing Badab War video work for at least 5 to 6 hours on top of that. And that was like with life on top, you know? And I would love to have time to invest in these big projects, but I've noticed as I become more experienced with YouTube, it doesn't always pay off. And I'm not saying everything needs to have a payoff, but if the goal is to do a bunch of different stuff. Like, I've got Mordheim, Trench Crusade, and like 5 other smaller little games that I want to do things on. 1490 Doom, Gundam Assemble is coming out next year, the StarCraft war game is on the horizon, and these are all things I want to cover. But I'm just, it's hard. I need time, you know? Sorry, it's not meant to sound like whining. Again, I don't want to sound unappreciative for all the support I have here, Patreon, Discord, but I also have to be practical. Like, I need a job, I need benefits, you know. I do want to do more Eldar Exodites. Like, trust me, I spent a long time working on that Celtis Queen, and I'll be fucking dead before I let that thing not go unpainted at the end of the day, you know? Like, I at least want to paint those fuckers. I'm kind of just rambling in a circle, but hopefully you guys, like, understand where I'm coming from on this. It's like, yeah, that's definitely one of the things I want to do. On top of everything else, I just gotta put it in the pile. In 4th place, we have the Pale Wardens by server regular Parchment Alchemist. Interestingly enough, this faction was not in the top 5 initially, but Parchment employed a very interesting strat, and I gotta say, for your dude's history, it's a first. We had some Eldar Exodites that were in the top 5 for a good while, but Parchment started offering sketches of 40k characters and OC characters in the Discord as payment for upvotes. Parchment literally bribed his way into the top 5, and it worked. And I gotta say, that's fucking hilarious. Some say he's still sketching to this day. The Pale Wardens are a Space Marine chapter with an aesthetic described as Cold War Soviets. Made from an offshoot of veteran Nova Marines with assistance from the local populace of a harsh ice world, what started as a temporary contract to mine resources turned into a sprawling hive city that pushes resources to its limits, leading the city officials to ration out resources such as light and electricity. The Pale Wardens were influenced by a new homeworld and now prioritize espionage, spy networks, and information gathering. Very cool lore, I must say. There's a lot to it, but sadly, we've only one mini for today, so I'll just be focusing on the smaller microcosm that caught my attention. This Marine is going to be fairly simple, using the last Mark 6 Marine torso that I have with a set of bolter arms. With this project putting me out of Mark 6 Marines and Space Marine Hero Firstborns, I honestly feel kind of naked without a box of Marines to harvest from. Like, yeah, I do. I guess I have some Phobos, and, you know, I've got some Primaris bodies laying around. But for Firstborn, I'm kind of dry, and I feel the dark pull of purchasing more plastic. But I don't. I don't need it. But honestly, yeah, I might need it. If only to have more kitbashing fodder for single project videos like this. I'll do it, but reluctantly. That makes it sting a little less, if that makes sense. As previously stated, this conversion was kept simple, although, given that they're on an ice planet, I want you guys to guess, just for like 1 second, what I ended up doing. And if you guessed fur collar, then ding ding ding, you're right. Sorry. I can't help myself. A fur collar on armor is like the coolest shit ever. It's peak. I laid a sausage of green stuff around the shoulders after trimming off the back collar, and using my clipper, as I've done many times before, I began to clip into the green stuff and pull out slightly to begin building a fluffy fur texture. I've been experimenting with other quick ways to make fur, but nothing has really had any concrete results that I like. The side clipper method is like the ideal balance between fluffy fur, something that's accessible, something that's quick. Like, I don't have to worry about the green stuff curing on me while I'm doing it, you know. It's kind of just like my best all-rounder option right now, but I do quickly acknowledge that there are some shortcomings. But yeah, I'm still working on some alternatives. Most importantly about this fur collar was attaching the backpack, head, and the arms before the green stuff cured, so the bits could kind of squish into the overflowing fur and everything kind of fits properly, especially the head. Also, for those who are unaware, the signature Mark VI beaky Corvus helmet has its shape due to the conical part of the faceplate housing more advanced detection systems and auto senses, perfect for a little nosy little bastard like this guy. The chapter badge is described as similar to the Nova Marine's halo symbol, but with 5 points, and also the bottom part of the halo missing. Now, I considered painting it, but I had this Nova Marine pauldron from an old Deathwatch sprue anyways, so I decided to like cut it and trim it a little bit. It's probably not the best rendition of what he had in mind, but I was thinking it'd probably be the most practical way for somebody who can't freehand without like commissioning a custom pauldron or printing some custom decals, you know. I probably just totally missed the mark, but yeah, you know. As the Pale Wardens are heavy into espionage, I wanted to add a little something to enforce that visually. I decided on making a servo skull from scratch, as I've done before for like the Red Talons. However, the footage of me doing that crashes my video editing software whenever I try to import it, so you'll just have to settle for me gluing the final result onto the model. I like to think that this servo skull like takes notes for the guy as he's spying on people. I don't know, manages his Spotify playlist, you know, a little dude. The Wardens were the easiest for me to paint because Dingus McGee posted his color scheme in Discord, and I happened to remember it being there, so this will be quick. I started with a dark blue made with, well, black and blue. Then I used a sponge to stipple on a neutral blue, then a highlight blue. I could have gone a little darker overall, but I can still fix this. I mixed Dragonoff Nightshade, which is a dark blue wash, with Glaze Medium 1:1 and washed the entire armor, netting me a nice dark blue with a little bit of highlight depth still on it. This is very similar to how I painted the Emperor's hands during me and Mishmash's challenge video, and in retrospect I probably could have just copied that formula, but I didn't, so hey, hindsight. With that out of the way, the black and metallic areas were based in black before applying a gunmetal to the gun's metals. Next was applying a bone to the helmet, right arm, and right pauldron, which basically wrapped up the base coats. I did some edge highlights, putting gray on the black, before remembering that I needed to wash the bone bits. These got a slightly thinned down wash of brown, being sure to watch for any ugly pooling. While that was drying, I edge highlighted the blue armor with a sky blue, while I thought about which branch of the Pale Wardens my Marine was a part of. Parchment gave some insight on the organization of his chapter, but the one that spoke to me the most was the Lux Corps, who are strong adherents to the Imperial cult, which they use as a justification to spy on people. The Lux Corps wear yellow on their right pauldron trim and chapter badge, although his helmet would also be yellow if he were a sergeant. He's not simply because I don't know, I just chose. Arbitrary choice at random. He's not. Sorry. That made up most of the model, only needing some red on the eye lenses and to paint up the base, which I did off screen with some snow flocking. So let's see the final model. And here is the Pale Warden. I think it turned out really well. All of my base coats are nice and smooth. The sponging is consistent and looks good. All of the wash settled where it needed to be. It's a simple model, but it's fundamentally solid, which makes me feel good about my painting abilities. Not in like a, well, yeah, I'm better than you guys, but like I can consistently put out a solid Marine in... Actually, this model didn't take that long to make. It's nice to look at a model and feel the progress, you know, like my skills are actively improving. And because of that, I can make models on other people's factions, and most of the time they don't turn out shit ass. Some are better than others, I'll say that. I think one thing that really does it for me though is the snow effects. To really nail the ice world aesthetic, but also it just looks good. Or at least I think so. Hopefully you like it, Mr. Parchment. Thank you for submitting your faction for your dudes. And let me get to your questions here. Question number 1. What 40k faction do I like to homebrew most? I started with Space Marines, and I've always seen that as an open canvas for creativity. That's definitely a bonus for Space Marines. Like, they are, like you said, an open canvas, and they're so modular that you can kind of just do whatever you want with them and end up with something pretty okay. I think Imperial Guard fundamentally are a little more customizable. There just simply aren't as many Imperial Guard enthusiasts out there compared to Space Marines, like, you know. Plus, I think a price point is definitely part of that. You need less Marines to make an army that's playable, as opposed to Imperial Guard, where you could be kitbashing and painting a lot of fuckers, you know. Me personally, though, I hesitate to say Space Marines because it's just kind of what I end up doing a lot of the time. Not out of purpose, like, oh boy, I'm gonna go kitbash some loyalists today, you know. But it's just kind of the space I end up in a lot, so I think I can navigate that task pretty efficiently. But sheer enjoyment, probably Chaos Marines. I just feel like they're a little more open-ended than loyalists in, not necessarily overall, but in the direction I like. Also Orcs, you can just kind of do whatever the fuck you want there too. Additionally, what other war games have I seen that allow for the same level of homebrewing that I hope to show off one day? I feel like these days Trench Crusade and Mordheim are definitely workhorses in that area. Not only do you have solid factions that are just open-ended enough for you to kind of re-theme in whatever direction you want, but they have very solid worlds that you can pull lore from, you know? Like, for like Trench Crusade, off the top of my head, like, if I wanted to do something for, like, South America or whatever, because I know that last time I checked, that didn't exist in lore. Like, you can glean enough of the official world to influence your homebrew to make something that kind of fits with the setting, and you can have a better final result because there is such a stronger foundation. It's the same thing for like Warhammer Fantasy Battle and Mordheim. Because Warhammer Fantasy has such a strong foundation, it's pretty easy to make a faction that fits in, you know. What I really want to do one day, total pipe dream, I want to make my own fantasy skirmish game with a very particular theme in mind, and I think I would have a lot of fun. I guess it'd be homebrew. Yeah, it'd be homebrew. I would have a lot of fun making the lore for the quote-unquote official factions, in the same way that like the Games Workshop designers made the lore for the Imperium, Chaos, Xenos. You know, they're making the foundation for other people to build off of. That's what I would be doing with my game, my setting as well. Oh, also the upcoming StarCraft wargame. There's a lot of potential there, I believe. Like, it's very easy to focus on StarCraft's main characters, but there's a lot of little throwaway factions and world building that you can definitely make something creative out of with, like, the Terran Fringe worlds. I know for a fact whenever I get my hands on some Protoss, I'm making Tal'Darim, like, 100%. In general, I think the skirmish level of game is probably the strongest area for a balance between price and like price to make it and lore and whatnot. It's definitely the sweet spot, and it kind of seems to be popular these days. But yeah, I'm kind of rambling. Let's get to the next one. The lone chaos representative out of this whole damn batch. Like, I'm not gonna get mad at you guys, but you know I'm a chaos guy, and there's only one Chaos Marine. What the fuck? The Tyrant's Claw is a faction created by Eggs Benedict 2325. Although I'm more of a sunny side up Eggs guy myself. Sorry. The Tyrant's Claw won with 26 votes, and they are Marines who turn to Slaanesh to ease the pain of a physical and mental corruption, a parallel being drawn by the author to the Flesh Eater Courts from Age of Sigmar. This one I felt I ended up a little plain, as I wasn't super familiar with Flesh Eater Courts outside of looking at some models. People are always astounded at the level of shits I don't give for Age of Sigmar. Like, it's pretty much only models. I don't know or care or give two shits about Age of Sigmar lore. It's all models for me. So having a 40k faction that says, yeah, they're like this Age of Sigmar faction, I go, okay, cool. Fuck. I don't know anything. And I'm like kind of like skimming wiki pages and like finding a short story and reading that. I'm like, okay, I have to like quickly like guerrilla kit bashing. Additionally, no offense, Mr. Eggs Benedict, this one was kind of confusing. Like, okay, you got Chaos Marines, and he mentions Flesh Eater Courts, and he mentions that they're suffering from like a physical breakdown. And when you think of decaying Marines, I mean, most people are gonna instantly go to Plague Marines. So I was like, okay, Slaaneshi Plague Marines? But then, you know, the Flesh Eater Courts are like, how does that work into it? And then he says, oh, I try to go for like a Crusader theme. And I'm like, what is going on? You know, like I'm being pulled in like 5 different fucking directions with different ideas. And like, no, I mean, it's probably just me being confused. Like, obviously the dude who made the faction knows exactly what their fucking aesthetic is. But like, I have like 5 different ideas and I'm not sure what to do, you know. I was having a lot of trouble cementing a concrete idea. And I think I ended up with something that's just a little bit too subtle all around. And like, it works for the faction as like a basic dude, but like as a sergeant, it falls a little short. You'll see what I mean. Now, I had a single model from the new Tormentors box, and like I said, my brain was just kind of overloaded. I have a lot of old, like recast Nurgle Plague Marine conversion kit stuff that I was pulling from, and I was like, okay, well, that's too much. Let me try to go Crusadery. So I was like sticking like Primaris Blade Guard shit to it as well. And then I was like, oh, what the fuck, you know, the Flesh Eater Court. And I decided on a Slaaneshi Marine with light physical decay showing on the model, kind of suggesting a more Plague Marine-y decay angle, but otherwise keeping the mini mostly within the realm of Chaos Space Marine. The model basically ended up with one of the Tormentors with the arms swapped out for a Legionary chainsword and bolt pistol, and I realized it just wasn't quite living up to what I wanted it to be, but I didn't know what I wanted it to be. So at this point, I was banking all of my hopes on me saving it in the painting stage. Before that, though, I had to set up the physical decay that I had mentioned earlier, so I started slicing and drilling into bits of the model, filling the voids that I created with green stuff. It seems a bit redundant to make a hole and then fill it, but doing this allows the putty that you put in to deform in a more realistic way. It's kind of based on the technique that tank modelers do whenever they're adding like armor damage. It's just kind of like the shitty dollar store version of that technique. It's still good to practice though. I get the idea of it. I'll definitely keep it in mind whenever I happen to cross paths with Nurgle Marines again. But I think the biggest failure here was using a different putty. Green stuff is probably not the best tool for this job. But I get the idea, I've done it, and I can refine it down the line. Mr. Eggs describes the Tyrant's Claw as a mottled magenta with some purple and reddy tones. So I decided to lay out a couple of different flavors of magenta and texture them up using a coarse sponge instead of a smoother makeup sponge. Before that though, I built up a base coat on top of the primer with a more bluey magenta, which kind of just ended up looking a little purple on camera since I put too much blue in. But having this darker color down will ensure that all the other magentas pop out a little more later. I started softly sponging on various shades of magenta, mostly focusing on pure magenta and that reddy variant since they were specifically singled out. Whenever I was sponging an armor section, I would aim for maybe about 25% coverage with the applied color. So that way, whenever I filled up the panel with all the different armor colors, there was kind of an even distribution, an even intended distribution. With the armor done, I did the same black paint on black and metallic areas that I've done a couple times before, opting to mask a few areas and use a small dry brush instead for the silvers, just for variety, really. Then it was time for the gold, which I tried something a little new with. I took my bright gold, glistening gold from Two Thin Coats in particular. I love this paint. And I mixed black into it for a base coat, which I ended up really, really liking. The original description mentions a brassy gold trim, and I think it was kind of a solid color match, like 100%. This looks pretty good. I did mix a little silver into it for a highlight color, and I really, really ended up liking how this came out. With the gold trim done, I washed the Mini with thinned down marine juice. Not really for the panels necessarily, so I wicked it off of all the high spots. It was mainly just for the recesses. Then I realized I forgot something. The original description mentioned tiger stripes on the magenta panels, and since they were black, I figured, let me go ahead and pencil those in real fast. I made a tutorial on tiger striping and other Slaaneshi armor patterns a while ago if you're interested, but this was pretty straightforward, although I did have to redo some of the edge highlights since this was admittedly a pretty last minute thing. I threw together some quick painting on the disfigured face and plasma gun and got it on a base. I painted a marble base, but I'm not super crazy on how it turned out, so I'm just not going to bother showing the footage. And here's the finished Tyrant's Claw. So this is going to break down into two different parts, the kit bashing and the painting. The kit bashing, I'm still not super sure on. Like, if I looked at Eggs Benedict's army, I don't know what it's going to look like, you know? If I gave this mini to him, it would probably just fit, like, into a squad of legionaries. I don't feel like it would really stand out on its own. But painting-wise, I think it kinda, I'm not going to say it popped off, but it did impress me. Having the mottled magenta pattern peeking through the tiger stripes, I gotta say, that's a killer fucking scheme, dude. Like, that looks, like, having done it in my hand, that's fucking awesome. I also like the specified green for plasma and energy swords. I decided to extend that to the bleeding wounds on the armor, like some kind of like nasty infected corrupted blood coming out of the armor. And I think it helps give it a little splash of that green in other places as well. But no, I think, like, personally, like I said, not super impressed with my own kit bash. But the armor pattern, like, hats off, man. This looks great. Thank you for submitting the Tyrant's Claw for me to completely fuck up. Hopefully you like my painting at least. Hopefully I did your army justice. And there's but one question for me to answer. The guy with eggs in his name is asking me what my favorite breakfast food is. Now, there's actually 3 contenders here. One, the little like round breakfast sausage patties. I could eat those by the pallet. Though something about that is probably like the most addictive meat. Something about those sausage patties, it's like crack to me. Number 2, breakfast food. I don't go to Denny's a lot. I used to a lot because I used to live very close to one. It was like barely 5 minutes down the road. And because I was working night shift, I was just like, well, you know, everybody's asleep and a stack of pancakes is like $2. So, you know, but they have what is it called? The Slam Burger. It's basically like a breakfast hamburger. I get it with a sunny side up egg on top of it. It's got like hash browns and shit on it. It's really good. Not like high quality dining, but it definitely hits the spot. And number 3, it's been a while since I had this one, but my stepmother is an absolute demon in the kitchen, and she made this really good fisherman's breakfast. It was like potatoes with scrambled eggs, breakfast sausage, and then she'd put like another egg on top of it, usually sunny side up, like jalapenos and shit, like any kind of hot sauce or even just like a little ketchup on top of it. Oh, it's so good, dude. But like I said, it's been a long time since I've had it, but when I can still remember how it tastes, you know it's good, you know. In general, though, I don't tend to eat a lot of breakfast, although these days I am waking up earlier, so I do occasionally eat a breakfast, but it's honestly the first time I've been doing this since, like, middle school. I like breakfast food a lot. We just don't cross paths often. The Order of the Lost Prayer by Todd is back, baby. Got 26 votes and has an interesting story on how it even ended up in this video. When I made the initial top 5, the Lost Prayer was in a comfortable, like, 6th place. The Discord was monitoring the results as I was tallying everything up, and watched as factions like Sisters and Eldar and Exodites fell out of the running as more Space Marines stormed the ranks and knocked them out. I was tallying up the votes, and I mentioned that a Sister of Battle faction was 1 vote away from tying for 5th place, and in that moment, a hero emerged. The guy who entered the Ashen Brethren, Animo, or Pangle on the Discord, went back into the comments at the last second while I was tallying everything up, and gave the Order of the Lost Prayer the last vote they needed to tie with the Tyrant's Claw, securing them a spot as tied for 5th place. That's the ever-evolving mythos around the Your Dudes 3 drama is so interesting to me. Bro, Mr. Todd is back. If your order doesn't have any salamander-related lore, I think they deserve a shout-out with that one. Just saying. The Order of the Lost Prayer is a spectral spooky order of sisters, basically being the sisters' equivalent of the Legion of the Damned. They also have a bit of a Dullahan theme going for them as well, like the spooky, beheaded, kind of spectral knight kind of thing, as well as ripping out people's spines to make weapons out of them. I'm a big Predator fan. I always appreciate a good spine rip, so let's get on it. For this model, I'll be using the Sisters of Battle Palatine, although honestly the Sisters of Battle have a lot of really nice one-off character sculpts that would have probably worked as well. I just really like this one. I cut the rosary beads out of the left hand and drilled a hole through it as well. This will leave me room for an armature wire whenever I get to sculpting the spine axe. The power pack received a few changes as well, mainly damaging the little halo thingy. It's not an iron halo, is it? The window frame, and replacing the exhaust pack with skulls, just as you happen to see on some of the older Legion of the Damned conversions or the official models. I also trimmed the sword sheath off of the hip, but I can't find which file that footage is in, so... Oh, wait, I found it, right here. It's not super interesting, but, hey, I may as well use it. For the spine axe, I originally tried to carve an axe head out of a styrene sheet, and it was going perfectly okay until I sliced it in half, so I moved to sculpting the spine shaft. After covering the handle in green stuff, I cut segments between the vertebrae. I used a toothpick to put a divot in the middle of each vertebrae, which I then smoothed out with a silicone shaper. I took a flat wedge shaper and widened the gaps between vertebrae again before attaching a new axe head that I found in my box of Frostgrave soldiers that I used in my 1490 Doom video. Now, is this the best spine I've ever sculpted? Probably. I could nitpick it, but it definitely serves its purpose. Being Dullahan themed, the Order of the Lost Prayer hang their old heads from their belts. I trimmed off the old reliquary and attached a sister's head that I had trimmed the hair off of. It still looks a little eggheady, but I didn't have a bald bitch, so we make do. As for the head, I have to try and sculpt fire, which I've never really done before. After gluing on a cone armature to give me something solid to sculpt off of, I attached some soft green stuff, more yellow than blue, and just kind of poked at it with a toothpick. I didn't really know what I was doing. I kind of used some tweezers to like refine some of the larger strands of flame and like pull some end points out. Honestly, I don't really have a good way to describe it. You know that one image that's like, the next step is to draw the rest of the owl? That's kind of what I've got for you here. Hopefully it looks decent enough at least. I tried to make it nice and wispy, although I feel like it could have gone higher up a little bit more. The flame is laying a little flat for my taste, but that could just be because she's running forward, because the fire, whatever. Let's paint it. Sisters of the Lost Prayer wear oxidized copper armor. So much like the Sons of the Labyrinth, we'll start with a dark brown base coat and heavily dry brush a coppery base coat on. We'll mask that off and dry brush the robes in a neutral gray. The original description mentioned chainmail robes, but did he mean chainmail replacing the robes? Or chainmail as a color? Chainmail on top of the robes? What color would the robes be then? Admittedly, he probably meant sculpted chainmail, but I took my chance at a bit of a cheapo way out and went with a regular grayish chainmail coloration. The video delays were getting to me. I wanted to put out this video, Granted, it wouldn't take too long to sculpt the chainmail, but come on. I base coated the purity seal and the spine handle with a bone color, and the silver bits like the axe head, human head, and bolt pistol. I washed the armor with marine juice and the robes with diluted black, just to avoid those robes from looking too brown. The copper armor was described as oxidized, so I'm going to go ahead and break out my ancient pot of Nihilakh oxide. I mixed it 1-to-1 with glazed medium, applying it heavy, then wicking it off of the high spots. In retrospect, I probably could have gone for an all verdigris color and then dry brushed copper on top of it, which probably would have been a little faster, but that method is a little bit more, it makes the armor look a little bit more weathered. I wanted the armor to look weathered, but not super weathered. This is kind of not necessarily a newer sister, but hasn't been around the block long enough to get that level of heavy weathering, if that makes sense. Now for the flame, where I originally tried to use a diluted contrast paint to start the base coat off with. However, I was a dingus. I wanted the deepest parts to be white to show the inner heat, and I eventually realized that I was using the wrong tool for the job, and just ended up dry brushing flames instead, from a light blue, neutral blue, to dark blue on the tips. I quickly slopped up the base, and I called it done. And here's the finished model for the Order of the Lost Prayer. I think, besides the chainmail debacle, I think it turned out pretty okay. I definitely need more practice sculpting fire. It's just something I don't do often. And I think I ended up with something solid for this project, but I don't feel like I'm not confident enough in my abilities to make a flame that looks that okay again, if that makes sense. I definitely want to practice it to the point where I could reliably, like a fur collar. If you tell me, hey John, make a fur collar, I'm like, done dude, whatever. Bam, bam, done. And it looks pretty okay. But if it's like, hey, John, make a fire, it's like, okay, I'm going to kind of pussyfoot on that one. Maybe not going to be as fast, not going to be as good. But this is pretty solid, and overall, I think the whole model looks pretty good. Thank you, Mr. Todd, for submitting your Order of the Lost Prayer, and a big shout out to the Ashen Brethren for pulling the Order of the Lost Prayer into this video. Like I said, I think that's really cool, that kind of mini story, and I wanted to share that all with you. As for your AMA questions, number 1, are there any factions I will never kit bash? That one's kind of hard, because like even minis that I don't like, I think I could at least be convinced to try to make something that appeals to me. Like, my default answer is like Votann. I hate Votann. There's nothing appealing about them to me at all. But it's like, even then, it's like maybe I could, like, I don't know, retool them basically into Warhammer Fantasy dwarves in space, you know? Like, sure, the standard Votann guy is pretty boring, but like, what if I just grafted his gun onto a bunch of Iron Drakes, you know? Like, I don't know if it'd be good, but I'd try it, you know? As for like factions to like, oh, I collected this army, definitely Votann, like I just said. The lore is okay, but the biggest turnoff is just the models. It's completely sauceless. Default Tau. I always say Tau is like the biggest disappointment, and not for the usual reasons. Tau have the ability to be a proper alien conglomerate, but you only have like 3 species of aliens in their model range, and I think that is a huge missed opportunity. So even if it came down to Tau, my kit bashes would just be implementing a bunch of random obscure Xenos into Tau and, you know, making the greater good better. Making the good greater good. Number 2, what are my top 5 or 3 favorite films? This is going to be pretty easy. Conan the Barbarian, Predator, Red Line, Starship Troopers, and I know this pushes me over the 5, but they're basically all one movie to me anyways, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Special shout out to Aliens, Equilibrium, Excalibur, the Western live-action Guyver 2, yeah, I know, Prince of Egypt, and especially Kung Pao, although unfortunately, you just missed the stream. The Mûninn Fugue fighters were created by Sullivanity, being an Imperial Guard regiment that frequently drugs their members, using their amnesiac status to fight in conflicts other regiments would never participate in. In my little bit of research, I found that they pull their name from one of the ravens of Odin himself, Mûninn, whose name means the memory. This also ties into their raven motifs that he also describes for their officers. This faction actually won 28 votes, making it the rightful 3rd place winner, but it was only pointed out to me on Discord as YouTube wasn't displaying the comment at all for me. Thankfully, Sullivanity joined the Discord and spoke up about it, so now we can get some guardsmen on this list as well. Not really as a bonus mini, since it should have been 3rd place anyways, but you know, I don't want to rearrange the list and kick someone else out after I said they won, so bonus not bonus mini, woohoo! This mini's conversion was kept pretty simple as I wasn't sure which mini I wanted to use as a base, as I ended up ordering 2. However, I ended up using both of them as I felt like they paired well with each other, each one being the medic in the Cadian and the Krieg command squads respectively. The Cadian medic was mostly vanilla, but the Krieg medic had some alterations. I salvaged an arm holding a book from the Krieg kill team box and replaced his head with the Cadian medic's covered face. Both of these guys together looked like a little medical team of sorts. I imagine they're not part of a normal medical team, but more of like a on-off unit of sorts, in the sense that like a small team with the medical staff who administer the wake up and Betty Bye Sleepy Girl tea when, you know, the units are deployed and slated for hibernation. It's not really a usable unit for anything, but it wasn't really a priority when I made it. I just thought these guys looked cool next to each other, so I stuck them onto a base and said, yeah, I like this. The Fugue fighter's uniform is specified as Mountbatten pink. I personally didn't know what the hell that was, but it's a desaturated kind of grayish pinky mauve camouflage that emerged in World War II. It was equal to Battleship Gray at best and made things more visible at worst, and when combined with the manufacturing consistency, it never really took off. It's made by mixing red into gray, but hilariously, as a historic parallel, I was having troubles mixing it, and I'm not a color mixing pussy, so I'm not gonna, give up and order a bottle. I had better results making something a little bit more similar to what I was seeing on my screen, using just straight gray and this slightly desaturated pink. And pink is basically red, so whatever. I did notice that mixing black into it for the initial dark base coats made a really purpley color though. I'm not sure if I should have mixed more gray instead of black, but if I ever redo it, I'll try that. Color mixing is a tricky beast, and I'm still not super great at it, but I'm glad I'm at least trying it. For edge highlights, I used a pure pink. This made for a more saturated pink color, although mixing white into my Mountbatten pink for a more desaturated color would have probably been the better move. It was like I was adding gray into it and then white, and it wasn't making sense in my brain, although now it's like, yeah, of course, duh. Anyways, the fatigues are done, so I move on to painting all the black on the black and silver areas. A gray dry brush quickly highlights all of the straps and leather areas like the boots and backpack, and all the messiness is neatly covered up when I paint the metallic areas with a dark iron, aka lead belcher. Red and gold were used in smaller ornamental details, although in retrospect I had meant to give the trench coat doctor gold buttons, but I've noticed I forgot to actually do it. Oh well. The models were quickly washed with marine juice with a dot of flesh tone wash on their skins, and I called it done. Now I know the conversion was simple and the painting was fast, but I think the Fugue fighters, their lore is really good. This is a cool fucking regiment. Not only is this kind of Mountbatten pink not really a color I've seen a lot for guardsmen, the dark iron, the dark silver, matches very well with it. And the conversions, while I didn't really do much here, I feel like they're simple enough to make an army of practically making an army of Fugue fighters really easy. I think for me personally, the lore combined with the non-traditional color is what really does it for me though. And they do kind of have a Norse theme in the background, but even just a default guy, I like the Fugue fighters a lot. Thank you, Mr. Sullivanity, for not only submitting the Fugue fighters but also bringing them to my attention, as if you did not join the Discord and message me about it, they would have been left out because YouTube kinda sucks. As for your Q&A questions, how often do I lose a really cool bit in my Bixbox? Not that often. If I don't know exactly what box something is in, I usually know approximately where it is, if that makes sense. I don't know exactly where this hand bit is, but I know it's in one of these boxes, or it's somewhere off to my left, if that makes sense. What is the most precious bit I've ever lost? I don't know, actually. I can't think of a specific bit, but I will take this chance to mention that I'm a complete Butterfingers, and I drop shit all the time. It somehow always misses my desk and goes straight into my lap, which bounces and goes into the carpet somewhere. It's really frustrating, but I don't think I've permanently lost anything I really needed. Oh wait, actually, a long time ago I dropped a bolter in the bathroom sink when I was stripping models, and it went down the drain and never saw it again. I had more bolters, but I cleaned the whole U-trap out. The bolter's gone, dude. That bolter's in the septic tank, or wherever the hell the sink's drained to. I don't know. I'm not a plumber. And finally, is there a faction whose design I like but lore disappoints you, and vice versa? For the vice versa, Votan, I feel like the lore is solid, but it's just not enough to get me to care about their models. Some of the AdMech range as well. AdMech is kind of hit and miss for me, but as for a faction I like design-wise, but the lore disappoints, I don't know. So with that, Your Dudes 3 has mostly come to a close. As I mentioned, after the presentation of these factions, we're now going to shift into a much more laid-back Q&A session. If you're just here for models, thank you for watching. There's no models after this, but I'll basically be taking some snippets of the comments section, some comments that I liked, and answering their questions. This is the perfect time to put me on a second monitor and just listen, because there isn't going to be much visually. But like I said, I'll still put something on the screen. But yeah, let's get into it. Before we get into the Q&A, I'd like to just say a quick thank you to all the new patrons that have joined since the Bad Ab War video. In case you didn't know, YouTube ad rev is not exactly big bucks, so it really helps me out on the hobby and life side in general to have the support of my patrons here. They are truly the backbone of me being able to afford what can be a very pricey hobby, and I have nothing but endless gratitude for their support. I'd like to thank my new patrons, Rough Time, Fine Metcalf. I'm sorry, dude. I don't know. I don't know what that word is. 2 Feet on a Pedestal, Leroy, Kale Not Kale, or maybe Kala Not Kale, Sullivanity 3, Stephen Garrett Day, Jordan Brewer, and Nick Navidi. If you like this video or any of my videos, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It would mean the world to me. So thank you for your time. Thank you for letting me just take a second to say thank you to these guys, and we'll go ahead and mosey on over to the Q&A. Shadow Sun here, with some nautical-themed AdMech. Not the only nautical-themed AdMech on the list, but I ended up really liking this color scheme. What's a bit of 40k lore that really annoys me? How would I change it? All the revived Primarchs. I would change it by unaliving them again. What's my favorite commercial? First one that comes to mind is Crossfire. What's the oldest model that I have in my collection? I'm not sure about a particular model, but I did end up recently obtaining a bunch of old 90s models for both 40k and Warhammer Fantasy. Some of the old like Chaos Warrior guys, and some bits from the 3rd edition 40k starter set. Next up, the Atomic Priesthood, basically a radioactive dumping ground AdMech faction. I really like this one. They ask more Battletech when, and hopefully pretty soon. Like I said, I still have this big batch of 100 Battletech models that I still need to do something with. I've already stripped them, but I'd like to organize them, give them like 4 or 5 different painting batch jobs over the whole thing. But most importantly, find somebody who can appreciate a collection like this. I thought about doing some kind of painting challenge, but I've noticed that most miniature painting challenges are kind of boring. It's like, can I paint this many models in X amount of time, or you know, dumb shit like that, and they're not very interesting. So I gotta figure out how I want to do it. Next up are the Reliquary Guard, basically Death Watch artifact security guards. He asked, what's the #1 tip for beginning kit bashers such as myself? For Warhammer in particular, you can get by with a bunch of part swapping and whatnot, but if you really want to push yourself into like medium level kit bashing, you can't be afraid to fuck up. Like, I know it seems kind of strange getting a box of, like when I first started, I bought a $60 box of 10 intercessors, and my goal was to just pull parts from it whenever I needed to, and basically just fuck up each one of those intercessors. I knew it wasn't going to be good. It was basically, it's not $60 down the drain. It's $60 worth of like kit bashing and sculpting experience. I know Warhammer is a pretty pricey hobby, but at the end of the day, it is just plastic. Radical problems need radical solutions. You can practice on cheaper minis all you want, but when it comes down to actually doing what you want to kit bash, it's just a matter of practice, man. Like, I got a lot of bad Marines laying around, but I had to make bad Marines to make good Marines, if that makes sense. I had to include this next one because it's the Swoltra Marines. Like, come on, that's good. AMA question, Dorn or Perturabo? Perturabo is a whiny baby. but he's not Dorn. Next up are some questions from Hazanix. Number 1, how do I see the channel growing in the future, and how do I think it will affect future videos? I'm not quite sure. I would hopefully, I just want the channel to grow at this point. But ideally, like, my goal right now would be to have my own place where me and my girlfriend would have enough space, and I could have a little extra room that I could have like as a dedicated studio. Because right now I do everything at my computer desk. A lot of things have to be assembled and then collapse back down to be put away. And I do lose a good bit of time, just setting up and tearing down these installations. And it'd be really nice to just have a spot for some things, like an airbrush station. That is mostly entirely dependent on my patrons, though. The people were right, YouTube ad rev is nice, but it doesn't pay like Patreon does. Hopefully I can get to the point where I have enough patrons where I could comfortably afford a place with that much space and not have to worry about, am I going to be able to make a car insurance payment, or, hey, I want to be able to cover the bills and have that space before I actually take the step to, move out like that. Then from there, I'm not sure, but having a dedicated space to do things would certainly speed up my process a lot more. I'd be more inclined to get in front of the camera if I actually had a space worth showing off. Because as of right now, my only background decoration is my messy shelf. My girlfriend has tried to convince me to rearrange some things to have something displayed there, but I just don't think it's worth it at the moment. But yeah, hopefully, if I could get a little studio space of sorts, it would at least reflect in the video quality. And number 2, how many lizards would be too many? As somebody who has handled more than one lizard, anything above 2 is instantly a problem, because you cannot hold on to 3 lizards. If you think you can hold on to 3 lizards, you're a fool. Next up, Turbo Cheeks with the Flesh Fiends. Number 1, what's my favorite Warhammer video game that's come out? Probably Darktide. I've put a lot of hours into that game. It feels like the culmination of the Left 4 Dead horde genre. And I know I've become accustomed with Fat Shark and how they're a total fucking meme and they can't do anything right. But Darktide is still a really fun game at its core, Space Marine 2 is pretty fun, and Mechanicus is really good, but out of all of them, Darktide. Number 2, how much do I think I've spent on Warhammer over the course of the hobby? I really don't want to think about that. Just taking a glance around the room, though, I can easily identify at least $1,000 worth of starter boxes that I've bought that I use for storage. If I had to guess 2,000, I wouldn't be surprised with that number either. But that's everything, And I do buy a lot of things discounted on eBay. As often as I deal with Warhammer, I've only given money directly to Games Workshop twice. I will jump through hoops to ensure that Games Workshop does not directly get my money. Number 3, just wanted to say that I love the vibe you produce in your editing. Your painting videos are always chill. Having a chill video is always kind of my goal. In this video, I did kind of compress and glaze over some parts. And also my sinuses are draining, so I'm a little drony, but a laid-back vibe is always my target. If you want somebody to get in your face and be like, "What's up, bros? My name's Skinny Penis, and today we're gonna be painting some bullshit." It's there's plenty of channels like that. I like watching Zorpazorp's terrain builds for his Middle-earth stuff, but that dude's loud. He's in my face, I get it. That's what that's what works on YouTube, and I understand it. But that's not for me. 99% of the time, if I sound tired, it's because I am tired. So I don't have the energy to do all that bullshit. This next comment is mostly in the same line from Mrs. Person Aries. I really like your videos and been rewatching most of your stuff lately. I'm going through some really shitty stuff in my life, but you bring me some joy watching your videos and painting minis. I'm glad that people can watch my videos and it brings them some sense of peace, I guess. I mean, I'm not exactly like an ASMR, dreamscape foot sniffing channel or some shit, but life is rough. I get it. Life is really rough, and it generally sucks. But if the things I make can be something that people can watch that takes the edge off of it a little bit, then like that's job well done in my book. I'm sorry to hear that you're going through some rough shit, but hopefully you get through it, and I wish you the best. Next up is the Eternal Dawn with a Steel Guard, a Gravis armor aficionado. You are among like-minded friends. I, too, mostly like Gravis, except Heavy Intercessors and Inceptors, which I realize is most of them, but yeah, I like Gravis, whatever. The only question they have, favorite ice cream? All reliable, Rocky Road. Next up, Jack Mac in Black with the Knights Valiant. This submission kind of stood out because it was like basically like an end times 40k survivor conglomerate chapter of like Space Marines and Grey Knights. Grey Knights with purple cloth, basically. It's nothing like too complicated or flashy, just solid. I liked it. Question number 1, who would you say your top 5 anime waifu crushes are? Everybody that immediately comes to mind are video game characters that I usually like within the context of their setting or story. But for anime in particular, the characters that immediately come to mind aren't necessarily crushes, just like female characters that I just enjoy in the story. Or maybe they have good character dynamics. I really like Casca from Berserk. She fits within the Trinity with Guts and Griffith, and makes for a little character relationship triangle that I feel is pretty unmatched in a lot of ways. And Casca is generally shown to be very competent at her profession, which I really like. Also, she's hot. I really like Dorothy Wainwright from Big O. I really like the no-nonsense, dry humor. I feel like she's a good character foil for Roger Smith. I want to say Rain from G Gundam. I feel like her and her family, like, combined with Domon and his family, like, the drama between their two families is the cornerstone of the whole plot, basically. She's shown as pretty competent as well as with, like, medical skills and engineering. Like, I feel like it would have been very easy for her to just be, like a very submissive bridge bunny kind of, like, prize romance waifu for the hero to win. But, like, I don't know. That could be me with my G Gundam bias shining through, but I do very much enjoy Rain within the context of G Gundam. Hitomi from Escaflowne. It's like, don't get me wrong, Escaflowne is an isekai, but, like, she stands out in both of the worlds she's in, if that makes sense. Like, it's kind of hard to describe, but, like, you get a lot of context into why she's feeling certain ways, and even in a pinch, like, she's shown to be, like, like, these people are fighting with giant robots and, like, sword fighting and shit, and she's like, well, I can run track, so I'll make that work for me somehow. And she actually does. Like, the fact that she can run track is, like, not exactly a flashy skill set, but it does come in handy in a setting where, there's fucking, like, flying mechs and zombies and shit. Oh, here's a random pull. Have you watched Monster? Ava Heinemann is actually, like, don't get me wrong, she's completely fucking intolerable for, like, half of the show. But, like, that's kind of the point. And then things just start going, like, the plot progresses and things start going wronger and wrong. And, like, her bad luck just keeps piling up. And you spend, like, the first anime absolutely hating this bitch's guts. And then you're like, damn, okay, that's a little too far. And then, like, damn, all right, I didn't know I could feel bad for this character. And then at some point, she's at rock bottom and she goes even lower. And you're like, holy shit, all right, we're just beating the shit out of this character then. And then at some point, she's, like, trying to get herself out of the rut. And I found myself like, yeah, you got this, Ava. And I was like, holy shit, wait a minute. Like 30 minutes ago, or 30 episodes ago, I wanted this, I wanted to throw her into the fucking wood chipper. And now I'm, like, invested in her, And, like, I don't know, I was really surprised by Ava. I like her a lot, actually. I won't necessarily say that any of those 5 characters are like waifu anime crushes. I was just kind of thinking of like female characters I enjoy. But each one of those are all great anime, and I could easily recommend them. Berserk is the 1997 version. That question dragged on a little longer than expected, but number 2, how do I even amass so many bits? A lot of the times if I need a set of bits from something, I'll justify it by buying the box and saying these are parts I can pull from later. Like if I buy a box of Assault Intercessors, it's like I only maybe need like 3 things, or like 3 Marines worth of stuff. But there's a bunch of extra bits and I've got 2 extra bodies and I can use it down the road in this project, or I can have it on hand to pull for something, you know. Other than that, eBay, bit swapping, Secret Santas, there's plenty of ways to get bits. Number 3, energy drink of choice. I don't really drink energy drinks often, but when I do, it's usually a white monster. Next up, oh god, I can't pronounce that name. I can't pronounce your name, but you had some really cool lore. AMA question, when's the next Gunpla video? I'm hoping I can do more Gunpla after Gundam Assemble comes out, because usually my Gunpla content like flops pretty hard, but I'm hoping that Gundam Assemble can kind of help bridge the gap between my Warhammer audience to Gundam Assemble and then move into Gunpla, if that makes sense. I do have quite a bit of kits laying around that need kit bashing, but yeah, just throwing out Gunpla videos every once in a while has not necessarily been conducive to getting any kind of results. Most guys just kind of pass over, and I get it. I am a huge Gundam fan at heart, though. I think there's some untapped autism there that you people will regret seeing one day. It's just a matter of building the foundation before I can unleash it. Next is Nairbons with the Crossing Guards. This is a total meme faction, but I do like the name. I don't know why. Crossing Guard? Maybe the Cross Guards? I don't know. AMA, how do I avoid turning my armies into an elaborate series of jokes? I'm afraid I don't have any advice to offer you, friend, but I'll pray for you. Next up is Mr. Jax with the Krakow Watch in English. AMA question, who is my favorite monster introduced in Monster Hunter Wilds? Arkveld is a fun fight, but at a certain point where the endgame was pretty much grinding only Arkveld and Gore for anything remotely worthwhile, I kind of burned out on him. I really like Ray Dow as a fight. It's growing on me very quickly, but overall, I think Jin Dahad, he's pretty fucking cool. And that's not an ice joke. Well, I guess it is. Fuck. Next up is Chaotic Master, aka Dabbing Squidward. They ask, what is my favorite bit to use? The one that immediately comes to mind is the open right hand from the easy to build Assault Intercessors. If I could buy like 30 of those or 50 of them, I would. I am of the opinion that we need more neutral poses and open hands for a lot of factions, but maybe that's just me, seeing as I'm more on the model side and not necessarily into the playing space of things. But holy shit, I can't tell you how many times I would just like a mini of a guy standing, you know, like nothing complicated. Just give me a Marine that's just standing there in a neutral pose. Lord Emperor Rowan asked, what's one simple trick I've picked up that really helps when building / painting a mini? If you have a body of like a regular character, or like a regular unit, or like a character unit, a good way to get some kind of variation out of it is to simply change what angle you're viewing the mini at. Every model has like a ideal angle that sculpt is supposed to be looked at, but that doesn't necessarily make it the only angle you can view the model from. Depending on the kind of pose or action you want your mini doing, you may be able to just simply turn the model or change the direction of someone's head and get an entirely different pose out of it. It's not a big trick, but it does kind of help when you have a bunch of repeating bodies, or if you're trying to like repurpose a character sculpt. I recently did this with my Alien Nastase, reusing the Tigurius model. By default, he's looking to the left when viewed from the front, but I turned my model's head more forward to the right, you know, and it does help. Like you can kind of get something a little different out of it. It's not a big trick, but it kind of helps. Next up, scalene triangles. Scalene is one of the few people I can think of that have been here for fucking years. I'm really thankful to have you here, man, and I hope you stick around. When it comes to non-tabletop, non-video game entertainment, what do I enjoy the most? Those were the two biggest things in my life that you've taken off the table, so let me think. I do enjoy watching movies and anime, but I feel like I don't do them nearly often enough to consider it like a main, like, tertiary hobby. However, I'm kind of failing to think of anything else I would do with my life. That kind of plays into your second question. If I hadn't gotten into wargaming, is there a hobby I could see myself doing instead? Definitely like large-scale dioramas. I really want to make more dioramas down the line. Ideally, in an alternate universe, my primary hobby would be not being fat and having a lot of money. But honestly, I don't know. I feel like there's enough in the wargaming and video game sphere to pretty much occupy me. Like, if I burn out on one, I just do the other. I guess if I had like property with like an outdoor space and like time to do it. Back in high school, I did 3 years of fencing in high school, and we had archery as like a mini elective within it. I was a fairly decent shot. I could go for some shooting. Not guns though. Guns are kind of boring to me. Next up, from Lord Calig, aka the Eldar Exodite that got knocked off of the list. Don't worry, I'm mad for you. He asked, have I had a chance to check out Drunk Remembrance's Craft World Gyaru? No. I mean, I guess I've seen it, but like, I guess it kind of ties into the second part of the question. Could we see a video trying to convert or paint up to that style? I've been kind of like toying with like a video where I like try to kit bash or paint other YouTubers like custom factions, but I haven't really like landed on anything, and I'm also not really sure. I don't think it'd be in bad taste, but I don't know. I don't want to step on toes, but I'd like to have a more concrete idea before I actually did something. Number 2, do I have an opinion on the World of Darkness? I like it. I know there's old World of Darkness and new World of Darkness. I'm not super privy on the particulars. My biggest experience with the World of Darkness was the Hunter the Reckoning co-op game on the GameCube, and like playing Vampire the Masquerade like 20 years ago and forgetting everything about it. But like overall, I like it. I just, like I said, I'm not experienced enough to really say much about it. Everything I've experienced of it so far was enjoyable. Number 3, yes, no. Number 4, when will the mud wrestling match between me and Mishmash be live streamed? It's not live stream, it's pay-per-view, sorry. $1 billion, gorillion, birdillion, quesadillion dollars per second. Next question by Mario and Gorlash's Chainbreakers. How's life going? I think I've answered something like this in this video, but I'm very tired and I don't have enough time to do the things I want to do. I still want to do channel stuff, but I just kind of wish what I wanted to do and things for the channel would overlap just a little more, if that makes sense. Number 2, will I make more stuff about the old world? I'm not necessarily inclined to do anything for proper Warhammer Fantasy Battle / the old world. The majority of my focus falls into Mordheim, because that's, not only is it achievable and a good balance like project workload wise, but if I had to do anything on an army scale, I think it would be in the Age of Sigmar realm. Mainly just because I've been getting a lot of requests for Age of Sigmar. Like, I could do like an old school Bretonnian army or something, or skeletons. I love skeletons. But like anything higher than that, like combat patrol, or I guess, was it Spearhead these days? That would probably be an Age of Sigmar project. Just not to necessarily throw the Age of Sigmar guys a bone, but I guess that's kind of what it is. But yeah, for the old world, I'm mostly in the Mordheim territory. Not opposed to doing anything in the old world. In fact, I prefer old world over Age of Sigmar, but just kind of a balancing act, I guess. I don't know. I'll consult with the Discord at some point. Next up is Daruger with the Dusk Marauders. Number 1, Age of Sigmar or old world, and why? I think I kind of just answered that question, but I just vastly prefer old world. Age of Sigmar is that kind of level of high fantasy that, like, if you like it, it's fine, but I usually prefer a more grounded fantasy. Like, not like dark fantasy, not in the sense that everything's doom and gloom and grim dark, but like an ordinary world with supernatural elements in it, you know, and like the grounded part makes the supernatural stand out more. Like, think like Dragon's Dogma, Berserk, like Golden Age Berserk. That kind of low to mid fantasy is what I usually end up preferring. And that is a little bit more within the realm of Old World. Age of Sigmar is like super high fantasy, Tonka truck, mega fantasy, if that makes sense. It's just not really an aesthetic I really go for. Also, a lot of Age of Sigmar models suck, so some really good ones, there's also some really bad ones. Number 2, if I could make sure certain Primarchs never came back, who would they be? All of them. Number 3, who is my favorite fantasy character and why is it Boris? It's very odd getting questions like who's your favorite Warhammer character, because I don't know how to really tell people that I don't like most Warhammer characters across all 3 games. I don't really enjoy official characters ever in most settings. Like, story-wise, it's different because there's like a proper story with proper characters and there's like a narrative being told. But like in a sandbox setting like this, most of the time in any game, I could give 2 shits about official characters. And I know that seems very weird considering the amount of Warhammer I deal with on a regular basis, but yeah, I don't know. Something about it's like Warhammer is a setting to me, not necessarily like a story with characters. But if I had to like pick one Warhammer fantasy character, probably Cetra or Balthazar Gelt, mainly just for the memes. Next up, The Hounds of Tyndalos by Bone Man Calcium Enjoyer 8290. How often do I just fail with a kit bash project? These days I don't necessarily fail with a kit bashing project. I might fail on like parts of it, but like it's hard for me to justify scrapping an entire project because I'm usually sticking to a video upload schedule. And don't get me wrong, I do have some random projects and whatnot that I just kind of like have the footage for and I filed it away, but it's a lot less these days. I think a lot of that contributes to the fact that I spend a lot of time vetting out if this project is worth pursuing, and then once I lock into it, I know it's usually worth finishing, so I just, you know, finish it. So I guess that's my secret. If you're feeling unmotivated, make a YouTube channel, make a video schedule, and then stick to it. Next up was one of the few Tyrant submissions. Radon asked favorite season and why. For context, I live in northern Louisiana. I'm gonna go with winter because the air isn't as wet and all the mosquitoes go back to hell where they belong. It does murder my skin though. I have naturally like combination oily and dry skin, so whenever it starts getting cold and dry, I have like eczema on my scalp, and it's right now it's kind of bad. I'm crusty. Next up, The Grafted Hateful by Orion. Number 1, how do I stay focused while editing? I'm gonna admit, there's good days and bad days. Some days, I lock in, I knock out huge chunks of editing. Like, especially with Bad Ab, there were some days where I could get like 2 chapters worth of stuff done in a day. And sometimes I'm sitting here looking at my video editing, and it's like the last fucking thing I want to be doing in life. Like, I would rather like take a rusty nail up the dick than edit this fucking video. So yeah, there's good days and bad. A lot of the time it's me just saying, you know, hey, I gotta stick to my schedule, and I'll kind of muscle through it. Number 2, it's my favorite model I've painted so far for a video. This is a question I've answered before, but it's been a while. I've painted a lot of things since. I figured it'd be time to officially update this favorite model, but it's hard for me to pick just one. I like my Lich leader for my Mordheim warband. I think he turned out really well. My Knights of Gold revisit with the big plume and the cape, just really enjoyable. And I get a lot of compliments on it, and it makes me feel warm and fuzzy in the pants. A lot of people like my Carcharodon stuff, but it's strange because I think I personally think that they're just okay. Ilian Nastase was a pretty good one as well. I liked how that one came out. But if I had to pick one in particular that I like, I think it's my Mordheim Warband. Just a really appealing shade of red to me. Next up, Quinn Animations and the Angelic Stars. Word for word, Hounced the cinnamon toast Kentucky fried fudge with a side of bacon and eggs, followed by a reverse appetizer of French fries and a can of day-old soda. Do I muster the motivation for the videos that are in excess of 2 hours? I never, ever set out to make a video that is a certain length. My videos are basically all as long as they need to be. I do try to stick to scripted content because it keeps my rambling more precise, but even now I still fall into the trap of like going over the same things over and over, or like putting a little bit too much detail on things that probably aren't worth mentioning outside of like 4 seconds. In general, I think Eons of Battle kind of hit like the conciseness of a script that I would like. Just, you know, I like Jay, don't get me wrong, but the dude's methed up at all times. If I could do Eons of Battle script, but just slowed down like 25%, you know, we just take our time and get through it. I ain't got a gun to my head, I can just read it. I think that would be ideal. It's just a matter of finding a balance that people like, because it's not necessarily like, oh, I can skip this part of the kit bash, or oh, I can skip this part of the painting, because then people are like, oh, well, you know, I wanted to see more of how you painted this, or oh, I wanted to see how you you positioned this. And it's like, in some instances, I'm like, dude, it's a black holster. Just paint it black, highlight it gray, you know, whatever. But you know, I'm trying to find a balance, and after Bad Ab, I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on tightening my script and my editing up a little bit. So videos will still, like I said, be as long as they need to get my point across, but hopefully I can trim out all the boring shit that we don't need to listen to, or redundant information. Like, it was not my purpose for Bad Ab to be 4 hours 20 minutes long. It just kind of happened. Which, like, the guys who like my longer videos, yeah, you guys are feasting, like, constantly. But I gotta find a balance between what is nice to watch, what is nice to edit, and what somebody will actually click on, if that makes sense. Next up, we have the Rampart Boars by Alex Breeze. If I had the chance to rewrite one piece of lore from recent years, what would it be? Again, the Primarchs. I generally hate that most of the Primarchs are back, and I know I don't really invest myself in Warhammer characters too much, but like, I don't generally like the idolization of Primarchs within the fan base. I would much rather prefer that stay in the Horus Heresy, their own little containment game where they can jerk off Primarchs. If anything, it should have been like only Guilliman, and then like maybe 2, maybe 3 Demon Primarchs. They should definitely be outnumbered, but I have a feeling we're going to be getting another Loyalist Primarch coming back soon, and I really don't want them to, but hey, whatever. Primarch shit sells, so. Number 2, what are my thoughts on the uptick in AI content in the Warhammer YouTube space? I generally don't have a concrete opinion because I don't see a lot of it. Maybe that's just me and my subscription box and my For You page. I don't click on AI videos. I don't see a lot of them anyways, which that kind of feeds into each other. I usually will always say that I prefer content written and made by a person, but I know, as like speaking on the YouTuber side of things, I know that people use things like ChatGPT to refine their scripts to be more like the thing that I'm trying to do. ChatGPT does it for them, but at that point, that's not my script, so I'm not personally, like, I don't really use AI tools for jack shit. I'm actually that guy who turns off AI and even like voice commands on every device and everything imaginable. Like, I know it's 2025, but I live my life like it's 2003. I have a wired mouse, for fuck's sake. I get wanting to be more productive, but it's not for me. I'm not going to be using AI tools. I don't really watch AI videos. I don't really see a lot of them, so it's hard for me to give a concrete answer. But Warhammer is a creative hobby, and I would like it to stay mostly like a mostly human space, because it's a fucking creative hobby. Ideally, we could live in a world where I could sit here and do this full time, and I would have like robots and AI doing all the shit I need, you know? Like, where's my AI dishwashing, laundry folding robot? Where's my robot girlfriend so I can replace my... Well, I don't need to replace my girlfriend. I can just have 2 girlfriends. I can have more than 2 girlfriends. Wait a minute. Grand Admiral Prawn with the Arcosian Steel Angels. Question, have I ever tried Kill Team? If so, what do I think of it? I played the 2018 edition of Kill Team, the one with like actual like points values and list building, and I much prefer that style of like list building Kill Team. And I know the current edition of Kill Team is like, okay, here's your set team, you know, it's a less customizable, but I've heard it's much easier and faster to play. I have a friend down in Baton Rouge, and he does regular Kill Team nights, and he has nothing but praise to say for the new Kill Team system, because it's just really easy to play. But I like the customization factor of the old Kill Team, and I don't have experience with the new edition. In general, though, I like Kill Team. I've actually been kind of eyeing the Middle-earth strategic battle game, or the Lord of the Rings game. And I really wish there was a Kill Team equivalent for that. You know, like a Lord of the Rings game with like, you could play with like 5 to 10 minis, you know. There's a lot of value in the skirmish level of games on the modeling and playing side, and it's pretty easy to see why, and it's why it's so popular these days. But for Kill Team in particular, I have not played the new edition. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but if I played something on the regular, I think I would prefer Mordheim, and I already tried getting a tabletop simulator Mordheim group together, and then nobody read the rules, so I kind of got burned. I don't want to play with anybody on TTS anymore, and I much prefer the physical models. Everybody I would play with is out of state, so it's either tabletop simulator or nothing. Joining a local group is not an option. I don't want to socialize with people. Next up is XX Dead Meme XX. AMA, who do I think 11th edition's villain army will be? I think I answered this earlier with Dark Eldar is what I'm hoping for. I know there's some rumors that are kind of also suggesting Dark Eldar. What do I actually think it'll end up as? I want to say Votann makes the most sense in terms of like putting out a bunch of new models, but they just got a bunch of new models, so I don't know if they would, you know, put more on top of that. And they're not like immediately bad at a glance, you know, like you can look at something like Death Guard, Necrons, Dark Eldar and go, oh man, those guys look bad. And then you put them next to the Marines, and you know the red shirt says, oh, but these are the good guys, even though they might not be, and they're like, okay, so it's like a good versus bad. Votann don't really necessarily immediately fit the visual identity of evil, so probably won't be them. And like I said, they just got a bunch of models. I know they're doing the 500 worlds thing and released like 1 billion Ultramarines. I could see Necrons again, but like Indomitus wasn't that long ago, so I think a lot of people would get mad if it was just Marine, like Ultramarines in particular, versus Necrons again. I feel like Dark Eldar is like the only option remaining in terms of like needing models, the opportunity to put out a bunch of models, and immediately bad. So yeah, that's kind of where I've got my eggs in the Dark Eldar basket. Next up, Mecha Phantom with the Thunder Hunters. I really like that name. AMA, what was my favorite cartoon growing up? Cartoon implies Western animation, so I'm going to leave anime off of that. I watched a lot of Ed, Edd n Eddy growing up. I also really liked Samurai Jack, as opposed to a lot of other cartoons which are, you know, loud and zany and wild. Samurai Jack really stood out to me because, like, there would just be long stretches of silence, you know, and it wasn't like a grim, dark kind of like gray, ugly show. Like, Samurai Jack's very colorful and has really like striking shot composition. It's almost kind of like a comic book with like how some of those panels on the screen are laid out. That's all I can really think of in the like Western non-animes. Oh wait, I actually really like Code Lyoko as well. Next up, Wrath of the Tentacool with the Keliashan. He's got some birds. In honor of my proposed regiment's name, if I was a bird, what bird would I be? Me and birds have a very tumultuous relationship. I've been shit on by so many birds and attacked by so many birds. In middle school, we had like an upward expansion to our house that my dad built, and I lived up there on the 3rd floor. It was pretty cool. But I would have, before we finished the construction, I would have so many birds break into my room. I actually lost a computer monitor because a bird was in my room, and it freaked out and flew all over the place, and my computer monitor was next to the window, and he was flying at the window, but he couldn't get out. But because he was over there, he shit all over my desk, and one of his little, it's not a turd, whatever, the little bird poop, it got into the grill of my old fat like computer monitor, because it was like 2008, and it shorted the damn thing out. And like, if there was a house fire because a bird shit in my computer monitor, I don't know what I would do with myself. I've been attacked by birds. I'm shit on by birds. We don't get along. That being said, owls are still kind of cool, but we got to keep our distance. Next up, Mary Mac asks, if I had to mix a new cocktail and name it after a Games Workshop paint color, what would it be? I genuinely cannot answer this question because I don't drink. I'm not a fan of alcohol in general, but if I was forced to make something, you go out back and you grab a little sewer rat, and you grab it and you just squeeze it like a dish rag until it pops, and everything that this poor little innocent rat ejects from its body gets into a cup. You pour vodka in it. There's your rattling crime. Next question, would I rather party with orcs or Eldar? The knee-jerk answer would be orcs, but if I was partying with like ancient Eldar, like the ones that burst Slanesh, I think we'd have a pretty fucking crazy party, and then my soul would get eaten, so it's like, I could do that. Finally, do I play the Middle-earth strategy battle game? No, but after I listened to a lot of like audiobook portions of like things that happened in like the Silmarillion, and I really like that side of Tolkien's mythos. Like everything in the Third Age, it's like, okay, that's Tolkien. But it's like First and Second Age, I was like, damn, what the fuck? This is like the fucking DBZ version of fucking Tolkien. This is awesome. Give me more of this shit. If given a decent opportunity, I would like to get into MesBG. Ideally, my dream would have like a skirmish level of that game, with some preferably simple rules. Like, and I could have like 2 or 3 teams, and then like I could get like my dad to play or something. Because he's actually a pretty big Tolkien nerd. Although my sister is a Tolkien nerd too. She does like no quote unquote nerdy things, but has like all of the Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion memorized for some reason. I don't understand. But if it came down to it, yeah, I could get into Lord of the Rings. Maybe I'll do that towards the end of next year or something. I just don't really know much about it mechanically, but if I had to do something, I'd probably do like some kind of distant, very distant cousin of Feanor, because I like the Feanorian elves. Sue me. But yeah, not out of the realm of possibilities. Next up is Monty the Python with the Echo of Thunder. I like the lore on this one. Question, am I ever compelled to make a full army off of any of the kit bashes I make? Yeah, I've had the urge sometimes, like the Thunder Barons in the Holocaust Crusade video. I really like the Thunder Barons, and I like my hypothetical ideal of the Thunder Barons. But an entire army, I'm not too sure. I think if anything, those kind of ideas would have to graduate up to like a kill team, just to keep things reasonable. It's hard for me to focus on one type of project for too long, both in a YouTuber sense and a hobby kind of sense. Mostly YouTube, because it's like I I got videos to make, Next up is McSpudster with the Leviathan Spears. Question 1. What in-lore faction that doesn't have any models would I most want to see get a model line? The easiest answer there, low-hanging fruit, is Dark Admech. I'd personally like to see more Xeno armies if something does come out. I can't think of anything in particular that would necessarily fit the bill, but I would want it to be Xeno at the very least. Number 2, what is my favorite musical? I don't watch a lot of stage musicals, but the only thing that really fits that bill is the Newsies. I've seen a couple variations of the Newsies, but for some reason I still like the Disney one with Christian Bale. I think that one kind of works, and I like Christian Bale. As for anything that just has music in it, yeah, there's a couple DreamWorks movies that I like. El Dorado has a good soundtrack. Prince of Egypt is probably up there as my favorite animated musical. Goofy movie, hell yeah. Is that a musical? Whatever. I like the Powerline concert. Oh, and it's not super related. I forgot to mention this when I was shouting at my favorite movies, but the 1986 Transformers movie has a banger soundtrack. I love that shit. Number 3.
Have you worn wigs?
No, I have not.
And number 4.
When will you wear wigs?
Next up, The Iron Hearts by Caramel Tiger Art. If I could go back to the start of my YouTube career, what would I do differently? That's a very hard question. I know I was working within my means at the time, but I would have made a camera and microphone upgrade a lot sooner. Well, I guess not necessarily microphone. I've been kind of using the same mic this whole time, but definitely a camera. You can shoot on 4K with a mobile phone, but it's just not the same as a proper camera that has an actual lens, Sometimes I go back and look at my older videos when I'm trying to reference something, and I'll look at something and it's almost distracting how the quality of the video I put out at that point. Because I made the damn things. Whenever I'm looking at an older video, I'm not necessarily looking at the content, I'm looking at how it's assembled, So I notice a lot of the times when I should have cut things that I didn't cut. How would I make this video better? What would I have kept in? How I've actually physically assembled the footage together. I would have done this, that. But to answer the actual question, I would have gotten a better camera, especially if I'd known that I would have gotten to this point. But my whole camera kit cost $800. That's not something you can really drop on a hobby you don't think you're going to be doing that long. And I didn't know I'd be doing this shit this long. It's been 4 years at this point? I personally didn't think I'd get a quarter of the way here, So it's if I don't think I'm even going to hit 5K subscribers, why the fuck am I going to buy an $800 camera, But personally, for me, that, having, hey, John, you will be at this point, I'd be okay, yeah, I'm going to get a camera. I also think I would probably build my catalog a little differently. It's mostly Warhammer, but I did do that initiative for a little while where I was doing Warhammer, something specifically not Warhammer, and I was building up, other side things some video game builds, some Gunpla builds, and then whenever my Tyrannic War video kicked off, I was okay, I'm going to shift gears. I'm going to do just Warhammer for a little while, just to ride the wave and pump my numbers up. And it did pay off, but I feel those ends of my catalog have kind of rotted off a little bit. Not fallen off like a vestigial video category, but my favorite video that I've done was the Norrune Village diorama for Dark Cloud. I love Dark Cloud, and I loved building not just that diorama, but how I how I made the video, going in game, getting footage of things, making a nice little banner for the sides, theming the video. That's what I really liked doing, and I don't necessarily feel pigeonholed into doing that. Feeling pigeonholed to keep doing what I'm doing. I feel there is room for me to grow in that direction from this video format. I just haven't quite figured it out yet, my Final Fantasy X video had a really a creative opening, I feel like there's a bit of room for me to do something like that before getting into crafting. I feel like that video is kind of the blueprint of how I could do that. But I just gotta put it into effect, if that makes sense. And now that I'm in my post-Badab career, I have room to do that. So, down the line, some videos might look a little different. That's just me playing around with it. And maybe it'll catch on, maybe it won't. We'll go from there. Ubatuba from the Amenhotep dynasty asks, what's my favorite bit of Grimderp? It's the Homunculaba, like 100%. It's in a proper Grimderp war for the fate of a galaxy. The Homunculaba is like, it's one of those things you would kind of silently like say, like, this is probably a thing Chaos is doing, but not necessarily something we want to put a spotlight on, because it's not necessarily like that side of content that is appealing to most people, you know? Like, it obviously sours a lot of people's, but it makes sense to me, you know? Like, if I'm worshiping Space Satan and I have no morals, it's like, yeah, dude, give me like 50 Homunculabas stat, you know? We're gonna pump our numbers and we're gonna fucking kill these people. I'm a degenerate space heretic. Like, my friend's growing a fucking chainsaw out of his cock. What kind of morals do we have, you know? But I understand why focus on that has shifted away. And you said Grimderp, and it does necessarily push the envelope of being so grim that whenever somebody mentions it, I just kind of laugh. Because it's like, yeah, of course it's fucking awful. Don't take it like, I'm not gonna say like, oh, don't take it seriously, but it's like, it's Grimderp. I don't know how to explain it. It's Grimderp. Next up is a comment from not Jonah Hill. I misread it. It's Joan Ha Hill, or maybe it's Joan H.A. Hill, but it's not Jonah Hill. They ask, the Knights of Gold are and were my most requested homebrew chapter to revisit, but what chapter/faction have I wanted to revisit the most? Not counting the Eldar Exodites, because that's just like the never-ending project that looms over me for the rest of time that I can't get to because I'm too busy. I have like mostly mapped out a revisit to the Tuatha De Danann and the Brothers Paradox. I really want to do more with the Tomahawks and the Vigilators. The Vigilators I've kind of got our plan for already, but the Tomahawks in particular, because it is so closely tied to like a cultural identity, I want to like get a little bit more educated on that before I go harder on some ideas, you know? Like, ideally I could talk to somebody qualified in that cultural history, kind of run ideas by them, or just like, you know, hey, give me some references I can use. So that's kind of the hold up there. Vigilators I've got plans for. Most of the other factions I've kind of like covered contently, like, you know, okay, this is fine for now. I might want to revisit them eventually, but right now I'm kind of okay with it. I guess the Red Wings at some point. I've had a lot of people ask about the Red Wings, which has kind of kept them in my mind up until now. And there's definitely room to do a little extra something there for them. And I do have the Angel's Lament as well, just not necessarily. I think they're kind of okay as just a kill team right now. I don't necessarily have the inclination to expand on them to the point of the other chapters, because it was kind of originally scoped as a kill team project. But yeah, seeing as the Tuatha De Danann and the Brothers Paradox are so fundamental to the early, like, just as the channel was on the upward rise, both of those armies are basically the pillar that everything else was built off of. I do want to revisit them properly one day, and sometime soon. I've got a bit of a visual overhaul ready for the Tuatha De Danann, and I think I can spice up the Brothers Paradox with just a little bit of painting, a little bit of kit bashing on top of it, but mostly it's mostly a paint. I've got mostly paint in mind for them. But yeah, second question. If I could turn any anime into a tabletop war game, Which would it be? Gundam doesn't count. That's fair. I mean, we got Gundam Assemble coming out anyways. But a proper war game adaptation for any anime, my immediate answer for most anime-related things is Escaflowne. Like, there's a huge potential there. It already shows off a lot of cultures. You got mechs, different kind of mechs, different types of foot soldiers, weird shit like luck surgery and doppelgangers and mysticism. It's all there. It would be a perfect war game. I know Marvel Crisis Protocol has been popping off lately, so I think Tiger and Bunny could actually do something, like a war game basically where people are competing to save people on televised, like, emergencies, but you're also, like, maybe, like, facing off with other heroes, like, sabotaging them, increasing drama. There's something there, Bubblegum Crisis, maybe. It might just be more because I like Bubblegum Crisis, but, like, because, like, the Nightsabers already have, like, custom power armor, and it's like, oh, you could do, like, your own Nightsabers, but it's like, maybe, I don't know. That one's a big maybe. All right, this one's gonna sound kind of weird. Hear me out. Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's like, oh, why don't you just fucking play Yu-Gi-Oh? But it's like, there are so many Yu-Gi-Oh! Variant games that basically turn it into a war game anyways. Like, you've got Capsule Monster Coliseum on, the PS2 or something. Dungeon Dice Monsters. Hell, even just that one really ghetto improvised war game from the Brothers Paradox and Duelist Kingdom when the rules were basically fucking non-existent. There's a lot of potential here for a proper Yu-Gi-Oh! War game. Not just card game, but like proper war game. Think out of everything, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Escaflowne are my top contenders there. Tiger and Bunny, potential. Bubblegum Crisis, maybe not so much. And this is the final set of questions by Squid King and the Gorgon Smiths. Do I plan on more Mordheim content at some point? Yes. I want to do more Mordheim, more Trench Crusade, more skirmish level games. In particular for Mordheim, I gotta do lizards. I love lizards. I want to do Amazonians as well. There's that Mordheim video game where you can like build your own warband and you go through and play, basically Mordheim, and you do like a campaign. One thing I really want to do down the line, it kind of relies on me streaming more often. I don't stream now, but I'm trying to set it up so I could do it on occasion. And ideally, if I had like a part-time job, I could dedicate a day to doing streaming. And I would love to have a game of Mordheim playing, get to the end of a Mordheim campaign, and then kit bash the surviving members of the warband onto the tabletop and kind of like immortalize them in a little team, One big factor against that is actually surviving the game, because that game's game's kind of fucking hard. I know I was playing Chaos and they're kind of glass cannon-y. You do a lot of ambushing, not necessarily a lot of like frontal assaults, but like, dude, especially for Chaos, if you get the wrong mutation, you're just fucked. Second question, what of sculpting challenges for miniatures or so? This question really interests me because what is a sculpting challenge? And not like sarcastically, like I could take some genuine ideas there. I want challenges for painting, ideas for painting challenges. I'd like some for sculpting challenges as well. I don't know necessarily what that would entail, but it sounds like it would be the kind of different painting hobby challenge that I would like, not just, hey, can I fist my ass in 24 hours? It's like, I'm going to need way more than 24 hours for that. But if you guys have any ideas for that, please let me know. And I think that brings us to the end of the Q&A segment. So if you stuck around, thanks for listening. If you fell asleep, thanks for sleeping. The Q&A segment has gone on much longer than the actual video itself, but that's because there were a lot of cool factions that I wanted to put on screen and a lot of good questions I wanted to answer. Some of my replies were a little short because of that, but that's just me trying to squeeze everything into a somewhat manageable video. And you remember the part where I said that videos are about as long as they need to be? Well, here we are. So I hope you guys enjoyed Your Dudes 3. I hope you enjoyed the more laid-back AMA that I had going on here. Please keep an eye on my community tab for any kind of updates. But if you want even more updates or more details on things, join the Discord, or if you really like me, consider supporting me on Patreon, because you'll get like actual updates with like proper pictures and stuff. But yeah, this video is dragged on a little longer than intended, so I'm gonna go ahead and go now. I'll see you in the next one.